All right, everyone, we want to welcome you back to our Midnight Magical Musings. This is episode number 2. I am but one of your humble hosts, Lord Cephas. I am joined by the Earl of Florida. Earl, how are you this evening?
I'm doing wonderful. I am doing quite well. I cannot complain.
Well, it's always good when you're doing well. That makes the show flow a whole lot better. We always try to remain as positive as possible. And let's be honest, it helps the kids out when you're in a better mood as well. So good to have you here. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say that helps kids out. Make sure that it remains at the current number of 5 and doesn't drop to 4 or 3.
Remember, that is the goal. On a weekly basis, we'll be checking in to make sure the numbers have not decreased. Not sure the numbers are going to increase, but at the very least, there is no decrease in the numbers of the little Earls running around Earl's kingdom, if you will.
I rebuke you, Lord Cephas, and we're going to go to a multiverse where that is not acceptable.
Well, as a married man, I can tell you I get rebuked quite often, so your rebuke stings very little to me. All right, well, we've had a lot of stuff happen this week in the area of pop culture. So let's kind of throw out a few topics here, just kind of get our feedback on it here. Let's start with, you actually did some writing over last week. You dropped a review of the Thor Love and Thunder trailer. Do you want to just reference that for just a minute? Tell everybody where they can see it.
Yes, it's currently on Vreda Media CA. The link will be in the description. And there's quite a few other articles and stories that are written in there that you can take a gander at, not just from me, but from other contributors for the magazine. But in this particular instance, we watched the trailer for Thor 4 and really gave it as much as we could get from it. And considering we've now had multiple trailers drop, we were able to see a little bit of where it might be going, what the characters are going to be invited to, and the direction that the director decided to take it in. And it's definitely it's an interesting take, and I remain hopefully optimistic because I do like Thor, I do like Chris Hemsworth, and obviously I'm a fan of Marvel. So what about you? Do you have any remarks about any particular parts of the trailer?
So I'm very interested to see the God Butcher character come to life. I think the comic book rendering is pretty awesome. We'll see how it looks when it's on the big screen with the God Butcher when he makes his debut. I'm optimistic it's going to be a cool look, that it's going to go well. I have some reservations, just like I do for every Marvel movie or whatever it is I'm going to see, because I just want to enjoy it so much. So there's always that part of me that's like, man, I hope it's really, really good. I hope there's nothing that just like takes me out of the movie, if you will. So I'm going to remain optimistic on it. I am again questioning a little bit why we're, in the one trailer, they're talking about Thor and Odinson. Thor is not a title. Thor is his name. And so I'm not sure how Marvel can work with that. I mean, look, it's their IP to do with what they want. If they want to switch it to where Thor is a title rather than a name, hey, you know what? Free to do what you want. I'm just not sure that that's something I look forward to, but that may be something that's very de minimis. No one else may care. That's just my thought on it. I love me some Guardians, and then you see them with Chris Hemsworth. It's going to be awesome, even if it's just probably for the first 5 or 10 minutes of the movie. I would
Probably, yeah.
But yeah,
Well, I actually thought about the thing you're talking about right now is Thor is his name. So why are we going to name Jane Foster Thor? And I think if I was Marvel, I would look at it as Mjolnir. We all remember Thor 1 and what uh, Odin whispered to the hammer is what's supposed to be inscribed on there is whoever is worthy, if he be worthy, will possess the power of Thor if you can move the hammer. So I think they might use that as since he's wielding the reforged Mjolnir, perhaps that might be the way they go with it because she's worthy of the hammer and worthy of the power of Thor. She takes on that title of Thor as she wields Mjolnir. Because we know that, Better Ray Bill, who was worthy of Mjolnir in the comics, he, however, he wielded Stormbreaker. He became a Stormbreaker. He didn't take on the title of Thor. He was still Better Ray Bill just with the Stormbreaker. So maybe if I was the director, I might focus on the inscription being a title that can bestow that the carrier of Mjolnir would be bestowed upon. Might be the direction I would go.
Yeah, and that's a nice little workaround. It's a little sleight of hand, but it might be enough to
Yeah.
advance this. And I think we're at the point now because we have what now, 24 Marvel movies, something like that.
Oh Lord, I think we're past that. I think the last wasn't the last Spider-Man 23.
Might have been. So Doctor Strange 2 would be 24. So this would be 25, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, somewhere mid-20s.
So we've had a lot of movies and a lot of mythos that has been built up, a lot of canon that has been laid out there. So people like me who gravitate towards that stuff, it's just my personality. I kind of like it to stay in continuity, or the very least the continuity that I understand.
Yes.
If your argument's going to be, and we're not going to spoil Doctor Strange 2 for anyone who hasn't seen it, but if your argument is that the multiverse of madness and the spell casting from Spider-Man, No Way Home, don't worry, no spoilers there. It's been out long enough now. That it changes some things up. You can do that. It's a little cheap, but it can work if that's what you want to do, if that's how you want to portray it. I think overall, and I'll transition into Doctor Strange 2 if you're okay with it, because you have a review you're going to want to talk about with that as well. People felt like with the Spider-Man No Way Home movie, you had 3 Spider-Man, people were going to go to that thing, and they did. It was a massive hit.
Absolutely.
Doctor Strange, it did not make the money the Spider-Man did, but 900 million globally as your Q is nothing to sneeze at. Could they have made more? Well, sure. If there's no inflation, you probably make more money. Maybe you have more people going out. But they didn't make money in China. They didn't make money in Russia. So I still think that's a good cue. Now, if we want to dive down into the numbers, we can always talk about, well, with inflation, ticket prices are higher, therefore less tickets get sold, but you make more money. I get the mathematics of that. We can talk about that another day. But the point is, the numbers, at least for right now, still hold strong.
Well, if you want to do a little, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that so far, so you were post phase 4 now.
Yes.
The numbers have shown that they are still sustained. So I hate to say it like this, but I kind of feel like every movie is going to be like teetering on that edge. Is it going to be a hit or is it not? Because I feel like there's a certain segment of the fan base that's just waiting for a movie to quote unquote underperform, whatever that means. Whether it's too high of a marketing budget or CGI effects or whatever it is, just to finally say, see, it's losing some of its luster. And again, I certainly hope that's not the case, because I want Marvel movies forever, if at all possible.
Exactly.
So we're going to see how Thor: Love and Thunder performs. It definitely has a comedic vibe to it in a lot of ways, whereas the God Butcher character is not a comedic character. It's very,
in no way.
No, it's very legitimate. It's very well nuanced and thought out in the comics. I know it's hard to do in a 2-hour movie, what you could read over a 10-issue comic series. You have to condense some things. I understand that, but it's going to be interesting to see how this plays. There is a segment of the fan base, like it or not, that not a big fan of Jane Foster as a character. Some are just not a fan of Natalie Portman. Make your own decisions on that. That's fine. So it's going to be interesting to see how the fan base receives this, especially if this turns out to be Chris Hemsworth's swan song. Not necessarily that I think they would kill him off, because I don't think they will.
No, we'll want to keep that around a little bit longer.
Yeah, I think there's still value to keep in mind there from that character.
Well, so, I think to tie in a little bit with that, it's interesting to note that I believe there's only 7 or 8 films that have been released in theaters this year, 2022, that have managed to break over 100 million domestically. And I think that says a lot about moviegoers and the trend, how it is right now, because it seems like the majority of the streaming companies have, like HBO, they release 45 days after the theater release, they release their films. And I know Peacock is doing something very similar with them. Paramount's doing something similar. So, I mean, all of them tend to still have a bit of the home stream formula, not the immediate one that we saw in the previous year during the COVID surges that were rampant last year, but there still is a tendency to lean toward a streaming at home after a month and a half, 2 months, and some of them even earlier than that. And I think you can look at the numbers of theaters and definitely see where those numbers are hitting when you have less than 10 films out, and we're halfway through the year, just about what 5 months and 10 days in. So we're almost at the halfway point, and there's less than 10 movies to break 100 million domestically. Now, talking about comic book Doctor Strange, the multiverse, they are domestically sitting at 392 million, and worldwide they're now at 913 million. And those are impressive numbers in my opinion, especially when you take into account the Batman that came out very, very well liked. Critics loved it, fans loved it, and domestically it's sitting at 369 million. So Doctor Strange has managed to perform almost 30 million more than what they did, and about 150 million more domestic and worldwide, because the Batman's sitting at 770 million. So when you're looking at something like that, and yeah, it's DC, it's Marvel, those are still impressive numbers considering if you take into account everybody else. So it's where is there? Are we feeling the effects of superhero fatigue yet? I don't know. I'm not sure if these numbers are reflecting that yet, but there are more films coming out in the very near future, superhero
So
films that.
let's mine your idea a little bit. So Spider-Man really came out the end of 2021, but let's count that as one of them, just for argument's sake. That's one.
Okay.
Doctor Strange 2 has been very successful.
Yep.
Look at Morbius, did not do as well as
Oh,
some would have hoped.
Morbius hit 73 million domestically,
Again, maybe not as successful as Sony
and
have hoped.
yeah, and that was with a. I think they did a re-release this past
They did.
week, and I understand why you would want to do a re-release, but I saw no new promotions, no new advertising for Morbius. So I'm not quite grasping the re-release factor there. I mean, if you're
Exactly.
gonna, what would you do if you're gonna re-release something, hoping to, stir up better numbers? You'd want to promote it. I've seen no promotions.
Do you remember when Endgame, I believe it was Endgame, finished just underneath Avatar?
I thought,
And they
was it in game or was it
it
Infinity
was
War?
it was one of them.
It was
And
one of
they
them.
re-released it again later to push the number over the top of Avatar. Thought that was
Exactly.
very, it's all gamesmanship at this point. I don't know that it really matters one way or the other. I mean, since
But
Disney owns both IPs, I mean it's
they're
all in
just
house.
they're just padding, yeah.
Yeah. So that obviously worked, and that was a noteworthy thing for them. But yeah, but the Morbius thing was curious. I didn't even know they had re-released it till the weekend was over. And somebody told me, "Oh yeah, it was put back in theaters." I totally whiffed on that one. But then again,
I'm right
there's
there
this
with
other movie kind of big right now. Something Top Gun,
you. Top Gun is
Mavericks. Yeah,
something.
something that's probably going to flame out. Probably not going to be very successful in the movie theater. It's probably just a fad. 40
Well, I
years
think
later.
yeah, right. Well, that was one of the things I honestly did not think it would be putting up the numbers it put up. And what are they getting ready to enter their third week?
They
Or
are.
they're entering their third week, and domestically they're at 334 million. And
Which we're talking what, 2.5 weeks?
yeah,
That's a
and
massive number.
you can say a lot of it was padded because of the holiday,
Mhm.
but they did not drop a massive amount that everyone expected from that weekend to the following weekend. They've continued to pad those numbers, and they're 599 million worldwide. So it's I think I didn't think the nostalgia factor was there. I didn't think I mean, obviously Tom Cruise, typically blockbuster, his name draws and everything on his own. However, me personally, I did not expect Top Gun Maverick to destroy everything.
And I
And
think part of the lower worldwide cume that you're talking about is because, well, it may not play well in certain countries. The glorification of the United States military.
yeah,
But and I haven't had a chance to see it. I will see it probably next week or so. But
Same here.
It's to me that is a smash hit, and Cruise continues to deliver. But I think that cuts a little bit into what Doctor Strange might still have been accumulating, just a little bit. Takes a little bit, a
Yeah,
schnitzel off the table, if you will.
they're a different
But
genre, but yeah, it's still going to
but
find a
see, you
bit.
have that going on, and really, if you look at the Google trends over the last mentions over the last week or two, Top Gun is up there.
Yeah.
Stranger Things is up there. It dropped its first volume one, if you will, the first 7 episodes, and
Hmm.
so there's a lot of content right now that's available. You have those things going on. We haven't even really talked about Kenobi, which just aired its fourth episode of the series. Some to the delight of the fan base, some to the consternation. Everybody's got their own camp. We're going to leave that alone for now. But you've got that coming. And look, really, I think probably the forgotten thing is Miss Marvel dropped yesterday as we're
Yep.
recording this.
The premiere
Um,
episode.
and it kind of feels a little overlooked because of everything going on. I didn't expect it to be a smash hit because honestly, and it's just my opinion, Marvel is mining a lot of their newer characters,
Hmm.
their newer storylines, and I don't know that that's going to resonate with the hardcore fan base. It might register a little bit with just your normal everyday fan who watches it because it's Marvel and that's what you do. So we're going to see how that performs a little bit. Now Disney does not announce its numbers, but we can kind of extrapolate a little bit from some of the Nielsen collections that are done. My guess is, and this is just a guess, it's probably going to fall somewhere a little under the Moon Knight numbers, probably somewhere beneath the Book of Boba Fett. I think it's going to fall a little on the lower end, just because of it's a character that really has not been seen. And the only thing I can extrapolate from that is they tried to build the new Avengers game really around uh,
The
Kamala
younger.
Khan, which is a
Yeah.
very interesting character. Don't get me wrong. You have really the first Muslim faith character, which is awesome. I'm absolutely all for that. But there's something about these legacy characters that people have a hard time letting go.
Well, there's a reason why they're legacy characters. Is because people don't want to let them go, and that in itself is a big thing. Like everybody knew Robert Downey Jr. was laying down the mantle of Iron Man. Nobody wanted him to do it. Everybody cried when it happened. And guess what? If he was to say, "I'm coming back," intellectually, I'm like, yeah, but you just ruined a perfect swan song. But
Well,
I'd be lying if a part of me wasn't like, yeah, bring back RDJ, Iron Man, hell yeah, give him to me now. And guess what? It's because of the legacy character and because of Robert Downey Jr. impersified the character, and he was and is Iron Man still, and that is a legacy character and a legacy actor tied to that, just as you can say the same thing with Chris Evans and even Chris Hemsworth for Thor. These characters, we're going to have to say goodbye to them. We say goodbye to two of them, but and it may make us go, it would cheapen their sacrifice and their swan song, but who wouldn't reach into their wallet and say, another Iron Man movie with Robert Downey Jr.? I'm there. I didn't even know what it's about. I don't care. You got my money. Come take it.
well,
So that's part of the strength of the legacy characters. And also, I mean, the casting for these characters initially, Chris Evans as Captain America, I was skeptic, and guess what? He knocked me out. He is Captain America. Same thing with RDJ. I'm like, I don't know. And then the first Iron Man again knocked it out, and so I mean, they became these characters. They impersonate, they were them on the screen. They were them even when we were seeing uh, news stories about them or interviews. We didn't see them as the actors per se, so much as an extension of the character they became. And that's going to be difficult, as you said, the legacy characters versus a lot of these newer characters like Kamala Khan. I'm very interested to see which way they go with her. However, I've heard already that they've changed her abilities or how she got her abilities.
yes, and this is not a spoiler, but in the comic books, she has cosmic powers. She mimics almost Mr. Fantastic, who is
Hmm.
able to grow his arms and his body and his hands, ball up a large fist. She has very similar powers as
Yep.
well. Not sure how that will translate. And I heard exactly what you're talking about, them having to tweak a few things to make it work. And that's part of the problem when you convert a comic book over to
Mhm.
live action. It works on the panel of a comic book because you know what? You suspend your disbelief. For me, it's
Exactly.
like watching wrestling. I understand it is a work, but I still want to enjoy it. I can walk into Avengers movie and I know in real life there's no Hulk. I wish there were, but there's not. But I'm gonna go in here and enjoy myself as if there is. And so
Exactly.
you have to create these characters where people can connect and resonate with it. But I do worry a little bit that maybe they're stepping away from some of the legacy stuff a little too quickly. Now, 24 films in, you can say, well, Scott, how many do you need before you've gotten your fill? So it's a fair discussion to have.
Yeah.
But I think you're going to see some ups and downs with it because people, we struggle with change. We,
Exactly.
we do. We don't like new things. We like it the way we like it. But one of the reasons I think that Book of Boba Fett did well, now it did not do the highest range, it was somewhere in the middle,
Yeah.
because there's a nostalgia factor there, but it doesn't play for everybody, right? And I think Disney Plus is the point. Feel free to correct me. Is um, name your football team, especially in college, which is where we grew up learning our things. You roll your helmet out on the field back in the day, the other team rolled over because of who you were. Now,
Exactly.
because of scholarship limitations and the fact that there's just so much talent all over the country, you can't hoard everybody that's great.
Not
So
anymore.
not anymore. So you're going to have your big names, your Alabamas, your Ohio States, your Georgias right now. They can roll the helmet out there and beat most anybody, but people are still going to put up a fight, right? And so I
Missouri
wonder if
Tigers.
Disney Plus is at the point because they're really, I think, focusing more on content than maybe quality in some areas. I'm wondering if they're at the point where they just can't roll a Marvel series out or a Star Wars branded series out there. And it's, oh, well, it's Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. If you film it, show it, they will come. I think they're going to be getting to the point where they're going to have to make some decisions going forward. What is the return on the investment for some of these newer properties? And some may do extremely well. I mean, she's already slated, Miss Marvel slated to be in the Marvels movie, which uh,
Yeah.
maddeningly enough has been scheduled, pushed back, I should say, for I believe the third time to
Yep.
next year. They switched it with Ant-Man and the Wasp, the Quantum Mania movie that they're going to do. And so I don't know what that means. We'll find out as we go. It may be a tremendous series that really gets younger people, maybe girls, more interested, which would be great. The more comic readers and the more fans, the better the products will be, the better attended they are, the more that we'll continue to get. And so we'll see what happens. I have reservations, but like I said, I'm that kind of person. I have reservations about everything. So let's just let it play out, and then we can make a determination decision from there. But it is going to be interesting. It feels a little bit kind of forgotten in the midst of everything else going on, science fiction, superhero, pop culture wise, right now.
Well, something Deadline reported was that Marvel's Thunderbolts movie is they're stating it will be directed by Jake Schreier,
Okay.
Schreier. So it's moving forward, and so they're looking at the script by Eric Pearson, who did Black Widow, and there's not much known about it yet. But you have to think, you've got the new Black Widow, you've got Taskmaster, you've got U.S. Agent is what Kurt
That's
Russell's
true.
son, who did a
That's true.
tremendous job in my opinion. I love the portrayal he did in Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Agreed.
And the standout in my opinion was Baron Zemo. Just the
I'm
dry
doing the
humor,
dance right
the
now.
little, oh yeah, the dance. I
Yeah, I
mean,
was doing it.
it
Nobody
was
wanted to see
beautiful
it, but I was
and
doing it.
painful simultaneously. But I mean, the thing is, they have so many characters that they've introduced. Like Ant-Man and the Wasp. You've got Ghost. I don't know if she's ever going to show up in anything else,
Mhm.
but she's a semi, permanent established character. Abomination. Tim Roth uh, reprised the role of Abomination in what was it? Shang-Chi.
Yes.
And why would you bring back Tim Roth for Abomination unless you have him slated for more? Because Tim Roth is, I have to say, I'm a big fan of his as an actor, And you've got all these characters that you could go into, and that have been introduced in the legacy films. So it's interesting. I mean, they have a wealth of talent that they've already tapped into in the past that they can introduce and slide into some of these newer franchises that we're doing, like Miss Marvel and the Marvels movie. Even though Brie Larson's Miss Captain Marvel is what, 1, 2, 3 movies in.
Mhm.
This will be a fourth outing for her, but for the character of Rambo and Kamala Khan, it's a newer thing because they haven't been on the big screen yet. It's just very interesting to see where they're going to go. Like you said, it's kind of a wait and see if their plan is going to pay dividends or not. Because we want what we want, but all good things.
Well, and it's interesting because you got to remember Disney bought the Marvel IP um, once it had already began establishing itself.
Hmm.
Really, they picked up the mantle right around the Avengers time. If you think
Yep.
about it, that's really when they bought it. So, in my opinion, anything beyond Avengers really is the Disney formula. Anything before that was sort of the Marvel, quasi Marvel
Yeah.
mindset. And you can see from the time Disney bought it, they had a plan. They've executed it. I would be hard pressed to say it's not been a success. My goodness, how many movies crossed the $1 billion threshold on a worldwide scale? It's flipping amazing.
Yeah.
But you can see there, I think there is a little bit level of fatigue. We saw in Black Widow, you released it a couple of years, in my opinion, too late, the Black Widow
Exactly.
movie, and in the middle of a global pandemic. You're going to get what you get. So,
And honestly, that movie, it should have been released between Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame. That is where it should have dropped. And it would have been more poignant because the character is in that space where you don't know. And by the time Black Widow dropped, spoiler guys, so don't listen to the next 10 seconds. She
right.
dies in Endgame. So it
Wow.
doesn't matter what happens in Black Widow because she's not gonna die. Spoiler over.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, and I think, and we can touch on this. Scarlett Johansson, I think, deserved better
Oh
because if
yes.
you think about it, before we had a Wonder Woman movie, which, by the way, the first one, fantastic. We can
Beautiful.
talk about some of the merits of the second one,
Let's
or
not.
some concerns. But Scarlett Johansson deserved her own solo movie when Marvel was at its apex
Yes.
because she's one of the legacy characters from the Avengers. Think about it. Iron Man starts this, then we go to Captain America. We had a Hulk movie really to begin with, but we kind of whitewashed that a little bit.
Edward
We,
Norton.
yeah,
We don't
we
talk
kind
about
of,
it.
well, we just pretend that didn't happen.
No,
But
we still keep Tim Roth and William Hurt.
that's true. You have Hawkeye who appeared in the Thor movie. So you tie all this together. Those are the core. And then you start building around that, and they got a bunch of really good pieces on the table. But now
Oh,
you brought in the cosmic. You
and
brought in
and for the record, the core group 5 out of 6 got tattoos for the Avengers. Only one chickened out or changed his mind or said he was afraid of needles. That'd be Mark Ruffalo. Yes, I'm talking about you, Ruffalo.
wow,
He's
you
still my
call
favorite
out.
Hulk, though. He's still my
Well,
favorite Hulk and
let's make a
Banner. I
note
have to
here.
say.
We will not reach out to Mark Ruffalo to have him on the show after you just buried him live to tape. But
Rewind it. Rewind the tape. Rewind the tape.
don't worry about it. I'll edit that out. No one will ever hear it. No one will ever know. But you got the cosmic, you've got the magical. In some ways, you've got the occultic. That remember, Hulu
Mhm.
tried some stuff that gets no publicity. They had the Hellstrom series.
We don't talk about
That
the Hellstrom series.
well, yeah, it was. There were again some challenges there. You had the Modoc series, which was it's something. Hit Monkey, they pretend didn't exist, but I saw it. I know it existed.
Hitmonkey
Um,
was it's audience rating. You need to be careful when you watch that because you want to
correct.
make
It is.
sure
It is a cartoon. It is not meant for children at
it's not meant
all.
for me. I wasn't prepared for what I saw in the first
No
episode. I
one
was like,
could
wait,
be
whoa, whoa,
prepared
whoa.
for what I felt was a pretty good adaptation of the comic book, which should tell
Oh
you
yes.
nobody was prepared. but they've tried different things. Well, the animated section, the TV section that's been rolled into Marvel proper now. There have been some things out there. Not everything hits. They just kind of pretend that that didn't happen or that didn't exist. And look, I'm fine with that because you know what? No one is 100%. I appreciate they tried some of these stranger characters and iterations.
Yes.
I'm still disappointed they didn't do the Offenders with Howard the Duck as part of the team, but I
I
get
think you're
it.
the only one.
Well, yeah, possibly.
Maybe
That was
maybe
canceled. That was not
maybe Ray
greenlit,
Thompson.
shall we say. But then again, I don't know if you ever watched it. I was a fan of Runaways. I thought that was a pretty good series.
It's on my to watch this because I believe James Marsters is on there.
He is an integral part of the show.
And
Absolutely.
I'm a big fan of his. So I watched him in Buffy, obviously, in Angel, and then Smallville, where he
Sure.
was Brainiac. But moving on, I'm a fan of his.
But again, that really didn't tie into the Marvel series as a whole.
No.
And I think that's one of the challenges that Marvel's going to face, and that is, all right. Do you remember in the Eternals, there's a Celestial shows up? Oh,
No,
you
we don't
the
talk.
Eternals didn't exist?
We don't talk about the Eternals.
Don't worry, no one else did either. I'm sorry, that wasn't nice. But a Celestial just appears.
Yeah.
Where is everybody? Because remember, post snapping, everybody's back, and I think. And if see here's where the comics and movies diverge. And again, we're nerding out here, but it's our show. We'll do what we want. It works in the comic world because you can pull characters into different panels and such from other books or whatever, and it feels very natural. It's a lot harder translating it across movies. It really is. For example, okay, who would you call up over there? Who would show up? Falcon or Captain America?
Well,
probably.
Where do they hit first? London, I think.
Yes.
So you would have. We do know that you have a London-based. What is it? Doctor Strange has the Sanctum in New York City.
Yes.
We do know that there's one in London. I think in Doctor Strange, the first one, it was what was it? Brother Voodoo?
I don't know that I don't think he's made an actual continuity appearance in the
No, I think it was his brother that was actually the one in there who died in the comic books. But either way, we know that there's one in London. So there are sorcerers in London. We also know that there are other superheroes that are over there. The second Thor movie, Thor was over there taking care. We know that New Asgard is somewhere in the vicinity of old Norway, so they wouldn't be too far away. I mean, there's a lot of why did they not show up, as you were stating? And that's just one location.
And I get it because hey, this is not their movie. We're trying to establish new characters. If you bring in older established characters, maybe that takes away some of the shine on the newer characters. I get it. I totally do. Plus, look, they spent a lot of money on Eternal, and they did not recoup the money. And I'm not happy about that. I watched the movie. I was like, that's interesting. I'm not sure what I saw, but okay. But
you know nothing's on so.
It's okay. The point is they tried something, it didn't work. So let's judge it as it was and let's learn from it.
Well, I don't want to
forget. Bring some of the characters back in additional movies. I'm not saying that the fan base is clamoring for it.
I'm with the Black Knight.
What's that?
Give me the Black Knight.
Sure. Let's do that. We'll bring Blade as well, who appears off camera.
Give me the Kit Harington. I need my fix.
But again, is that going to excite the fan base and motivate them? We'll just have to see. Moon Knight, some people like it. Some people just didn't get it or didn't want to get it or just couldn't get it. Don't know that, Moon Knight as a character will team up with a group, unless they did the Midnight Suns, which, if you're not a comic fan, just know it was a really cool. We had Werewolf by Night, you had Ghost
which we had
all these,
in Moon Knight.
You had all these cosmic and creatures kind of teaming up together.
And the majority of them were classified probably as vigilantes.
Probably so. Yeah, I think that's fair.
Now,
So
if
there's a
you want
lot
to,
of ways they can go. It's just, but here's the other thing too, and that is you're marketing to kids. You
yes.
have to because they're your lifeblood. When
Mhm.
we were growing up, Star Wars, Star Trek. Yes, there were adults who love that stuff, but it's the kids who bought the toys for the most part. Now, as we've gotten older and nostalgia set in, you have more adults buying, which hey, I'm
Yeah.
all about that. That's cool. I do the same thing. Judge
Don't
nobody.
look at myself. Yeah.
But yeah, but you got to keep the kids engaged, which means you got to be careful
Mhm.
where you take this. Thanos. A lot of people love the characterization. I thought it was pretty good. But some are like, well, they didn't do the story straight from the comics. Newsflash, they can't. Because if you have a cosmic character trying to impress death by killing a bunch of people,
While Deadpool is trying to
yeah,
also get with death.
yeah. So kids maybe not appropriate, and you really
Yeah.
need them because you want to sell the stuff in the parks, you want to sell the stuff online, you want to sell it in the stores, and you want parents to let their kids wear it and be proud of the fact they're wearing it, not like I'm embarrassed my child is wearing it. So look, there is part of that as well. That is part of their marketing and their thought process is what is the most marketable stuff. And I think that's why you're seeing a Kamala Khan or
Mhm.
different iterations that are coming. We're just going to see what happens. But I
Now,
think that's their plan.
now I think you know, I think you might tell that we do like Marvel.
A little bit, yeah.
Now, now let us switch gears,
Okay, switching gears.
get into a slipstream here,
Mhm.
side slip maybe. And so we did lightly touch on Batman, the Batman that came out, the numbers that hit.
Yep,
And I know you have not seen it yet.
that is correct.
I actually went to the drive-in with my family to go see it, and it my half of them were not impressed because it was a darker noir kind of styled uh, film, and so they didn't care much for it. And I, however, I enjoyed it for what it was. I thought it was very well done. I was one of those few that thought uh, Mr. Edward Cullen, Robert Pattinson, would be able to pull it off. I thought especially considering his list of roles since then, has shown that he has acting ability. It's not just look at me, I fit a look. So I think he proved pre the Batman that he could do a Batman and a Bruce Wayne. Now, what variant of Batman and Bruce Wayne you got? They're all different. They're all, you
Yes,
know, Ben Affleck's version is not Michael Keaton's version. Michael Keaton's version is not Val Kilmer's, and Val Kilmer isn't George Clooney or Christian Bale, and so forth, or even go to Adam West. They're all different iterations of the same character, and technically the same two characters, because
yes,
Batman and Bruce Wayne are in effect two different characters. And I think Robert Pattinson was able to nail both of them. And since it's taking kind of like from the Batman year one, year two
mhm,
era, I think trying to find that, is there a balance? Should there be a balance? What is the balance? How can I differentiate from who I am as this person from this person? It was a very, I enjoyed it. I did thoroughly enjoy it. Uh, and I saw it twice in theaters just to make sure I enjoyed it as much as I thought I did.
right.
But I did very much enjoy it. And then we had a viewing of it when it dropped on HBO Go. Now, so I think DC is trying to decide what direction they should go post Justice League, because let's face it, um, you had obviously Superman as Man of Steel. Then you went to the Batman versus Superman, which introduced a Gal Gadot
Yep.
as Wonder Woman, and I absolutely loved her in that, as well as Ben Affleck's Martha less version. Martha, why did you say that name? But despite that written in, you had Aquaman hit that was tremendous, and at the box office especially, they made the numbers off of, and let's face it, off of a character that has been a running joke for 40 years. Isn't that Would that be appropriate? Super Friends, since Super Friends, he's been the running joke, the guy who
Well,
talks to whales.
they did him no favors, shall we say.
And let's face it, they took a joke of a character in cartoons, specifically Super Friends, even though they made him a little bit edgier in the Justice League Unlimited series
Yes.
that ran 20 years ago. So
And even in
a
some
bit.
of the other animated movies that they did.
Exactly. They tried to make him edgy and everything, but he remained a running joke. There was no way Aquaman was going to be on the big screen, period. It wasn't going to happen. And guess what? Knocked it out of the park. Jason Momoa was just, well, he was gold in that role. And it helped that there was a great supporting cast that did very well. I'm talking, William Dafoe, even Nicole Kidman. I haven't been a huge fan of hers because I haven't watched a whole lot of her movies over the last 10 years or so. But I did enjoy her movies earlier. I just haven't had time to watch as many movies as I once did. But her role of that, and then Mr. Morrison, Boba Fett himself,
Yeah.
was in it, and it was a very well done film, I believe, and the CGI was nicely done, and I think what Aquaman did, which I think they might have learned, or it was an accident, but I'm hoping that they learned it from watching all the others, is they did not kill their villain. You do not have to kill your villain at the end of every movie. That is not necessary. And they kept him alive, and they're using him in Aquaman too, obviously, as the trailers revealed.
Mhm.
But they took this character that was a mockery, much like a second, third-rate character, and I kind of draw a parallel between what they did with Aquaman with who was a second-rate or third-rate character, a guy who used to swing a hammer around called Goldilocks, Thor. They managed to make a character relevant, and something that somebody wanted to see and they want to see more of.
Now, are we
Yeah.
discounting the Thor frog though?
No, I will not discount Throg because in my review, you can read it. I distinctly mentioned Throg, and Chris Hemsworth was the one making those grunts in that, which is wonderful. It's hilarious. It's just awesome. But so DC, they're now at the point where they have some of the franchises are in flux. They're trying to decide which way they want to go. We've heard so many rumors now. Is it Henry Cavill? Is it Michael B. Jordan?
Right.
Who's Superman? Heard rumors that there's another woman who portrays Wonder Woman in one of the upcoming films. Is it because it's a Flash timeline thing? We don't know what's going on with the Flash. Do we really want to know at this point? We know Aquaman 2 is coming out, so we're waving that flag. So and then Shazam 1, great. Shazam 2, I think, is supposed to come out at the end of this year sometime, probably during the holidays. So that leads us to an upcoming film that just dropped its second trailer. Mr. Dwayne Johnson himself, Black Adam. Give me your thoughts, Lord Cephas.
I love Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Let me preface what I'm about to say. But I'm watching the trailer and I'm like, no, it looks a little off, a little bit. How he looks with the hood and all.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be interesting. We talked a little bit about this before we came on the air. I'm not a fan of the anti-hero if I don't see him as a villain first. He's not an anti-hero because he hasn't been established as a villain first to then be the anti-hero. You've got to be established as a bad guy for me to care about you doing maybe the wrong thing for the right reason, right? And so
Exactly.
I feel like DC is in the mode where, look, we've got to get it now, now, now. And it's just, hey, we'll see. So I will just simply say I was intrigued by it. I'm just not sure I buy the anti-hero thing just yet. But then again, we don't know how the movie's going to play out. Maybe something happens to turn him that way, but I still feel like DC rushes things just a little bit. And before you weigh in on it, you had mentioned one other thing I wanted to throw out while I can remember it. You
Okay.
mentioned Shazam.
Oh, of course.
So I called up a few numbers because you can't be the only numbers guy on the show. And if you'll remember right, it didn't draw that well domestically. It's $140 million domestically, 225 internationally for 365. Well, just under 366 million worldwide.
Hmm.
For any other superhero franchise, that would be considered a bust. But you got to understand, it was $100 million budget. Well, you were 266 million above your budget.
Yeah.
Do the math. That's a win, but it's not the numbers that Marvel's actually doing. So some people looked at it as a negative. Well, it basically made money just a little under where the Ant-Man movies typically make, right?
Yeah. About.
About roughly, it's in the ballpark. But
Yeah.
it took them a long time to ever announce a sequel, even though mathematically and by every metric, it was a success. But it just didn't make gobs and gobs of money. And I think DC, what is the old saying? Uh, uh, penny wise and a
Uh,
pound short, something like that.
yep.
I think they struggle there because there's this need to immediately catch up with Marvel. And I got news for them. You're not going to do it. Just be who y'all are. Look at the CW. They just whacked every DC show with the exception of The Flash. And even that one's coming up on season 9. We don't know what the future will be of it. But they whacked Naomi. They whacked Legends of Tomorrow.
After giving us Booster Gold.
I knew you were going to go there. Who's appeared on The Flash, by the way, this season 2. So they were definitely trying to build something there.
Yeah.
You lost Legends. We lost Black Lightning. We lost Supergirl. Not this season due to cancellation, just the shows that run their course. You lost Batwoman as well, which was never a ratings performer. Whether it was Ruby Rose or Javicia Leslie, it didn't matter. The fan base just didn't come out in droves for it. So DC, it's like wanting to be something big, but you just need to accept where you are and make that your platform and then work from there. I feel like that's the struggle that they have. And I'm not, and I get accused of being anti-DC. I'm not. I just want good content. I love the DC shows on CW. Well, a couple of them anyway, not all of them.
Yeah.
But I loved Arrow. Hey, there's no Arrowverse if there's no Arrow. So
Yes.
I loved Arrow. I love the Flash. Or I have for the most part. There are a few seasons where the villains were a little weak, and there are times I get tired.
Or repetitive.
Yes, and I get tired of whiny Flash after a while.
Yeah.
Just like I didn't really enjoy whiny Luke Skywalker. It's like stop it.
Slap them around a little bit.
I know, right? Well, as they choke, as they force choke me, or just
Yeah.
run circles around me until I burn up. It really feels like that they're just not sure. Now we have a new guy who's come in and he's dropping the hammer across the Warner Media. We'll see what that ultimately means for the movie franchises. I mean, one of his first acts was to act the Wonder Twins movie.
Yeah, which I'm not sure was not the right call.
I'm pretty sure he's like, yeah, what's that? Well, no. Sorry. Maybe we can keep. What was it? Gleek, who was the monkey,
Gleek,
who's still rattling around in the cage on the Flash show up in the Hall of Justice, even though they don't call it that.
And nobody's there anymore.
If you haven't seen that crossover with all 4 shows, you really need to, because it was pretty good. But yeah, I feel like they're just kind of punching against the wind or trying to see what sticks. And it doesn't mean they can't make good movies. You referenced the Batman being a decent movie, something to enjoy. But I have to admit to you, in my heart of hearts, I'm not a big brooding movie person. I get tired of that. I work in my real life job and some things that can get to you if you let them, because of the toll that some things take on people. And when I come home, I want escapism. I want to enjoy myself. I want to forget myself for an hour or two, whatever I'm doing. When you have a lot of brooding stuff, which is where, sometimes I had issues with Arrow. Number one, well, if I watch it at night, it's very dark on the screen. It's hard for me to see as I'm getting older. But I don't want to see brooding. I need to see a little uplifting. every once in a while. And that's really why the
Okay.
first season of The Flash resonates so hard with me.
Because it was
It
that
was an
optimistic.
emotional thing for me because I'm like, I'm there. I'm
Exactly.
there with you because here's a guy learning his powers. He's unsure because he just got them. Let's learn how this works. And of course, you have a psychopath who may be a time traveler, not be. Um, Maybe
Well,
it'll change his face. We'd find out later.
I think part of the reason Flash did so well is the talent as well. Because Tom Cavanaugh,
Mm.
up to that point, he was just the funny guy, sidekick who's drowning in a bathtub that's at some point crossed the threshold of water and bodily fluids with floating beers in there as he's mourning his father's death of John Ritter on Scrubs. Yes,
Yeah, go watch Scrubs if you don't know what he's talking about.
yes, you'll
It's a
you'll
really good
appreciate.
story arc.
You'll either love it and appreciate us, or you will no longer watch any of this podcast. And I'm sorry if you're the latter.
Hey, we are who we are.
But Tom Cavanaugh, I was completely baffled. Why are you going to hire him to be the villain, the mentor? Who is he exactly? I'm not sure. And when you watch it, he is phenomenal, in my opinion. Both him and I don't remember his name, who played the other version of Reverse Flash.
Oh,
Um,
Matt Lyncher, I think's his name.
yes. And it's just the Flash was cast so well, and they again, how we were talking about how the legacy characters of Marvel became the characters. When you're watching Flash, you're seeing Barry Allen. You're like, he's so hopeful, he's so optimistic, he's so naive, and he
Mhm.
he wants to help, and it's just it draws you in, like you said, it makes you invested, and it's an emotional roller coaster, and it does it very very well.
There is a scene towards the end of the first season where you have the Flash, you have Arrow, you have Firestorm, the Ronnie Raymond version of
Yes,
Firestorm.
Robbie.
Yeah, Robbie Raymond. And they're taking on Reverse Flash. It's maybe the second or third episode from the end of the season. And you
Mhm.
get to see those three team up. It only goes on for maybe what, 3 minutes,
4 minutes
3.5 minutes.
maybe
Yeah,
tops.
it's not long, but to see those characters team up, understanding their history, because look, we grew up watching Super Friends. We make fun of it, but we loved it. Or the
Exactly.
Galactic Guardians when they had Dark Side and let's see, what was his caveman child?
It wasn't
Um,
Orion. Orion was the other one. Did it
so
start
you
with?
had Dark Side, you have Calabac. That's who it was,
Yeah. Yep.
Calabac. Okay, and then you had the one who's the one who's voiced by Rene Bergeron from Odo from Star Trek: Deep Space Nine. He was on it as well. He was one of the
Yeah.
voices as well, and we
Very
love
nice.
that stuff, right? But you had Firestorm and Cyborg. They had some
Mhm.
characters they just made up, like Samurai, did not exist, or Black Lightning. No, I'm sorry, Black Vulcan.
Yeah.
Excuse me,
Like,
don't let me
yeah.
get it wrong. Yes, I confused it for a minute there. So we
Messed
grew
up.
up loving that stuff, but the Flash and those characters, those are legacy characters for DC. People want to root for them.
Hmm.
And now you mentioned the numbers on Justice League, I believe last week. Um, those were not insignificant numbers
Yeah, it
that
was
they
somewhere
did,
around 657 million at the
and
box
yet that
office.
was considered to be a failure because people consider the idea that you have the Justice League with Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, maybe not as much, Cyborg, Flash, maybe not as much. I mean, they're important, but they're
Yeah,
not getting people out to the movie theater. That's printing money, or it should be. And
they
so,
choked up.
well, that's how people thought. Those are their legacy characters. And honestly, I feel like just like I talk about Marvel protecting your legacy, DC hasn't always done a great job of protecting the
Well, look,
legacy. And that does look, negative word of mouth travels a whole lot faster than positive word of mouth. For humans,
exactly.
that's what we do. And I think they fell victim to that because it became very chic to knock the movie.
Well, I think the Marvel, they had obviously Iron Man, Thor, and Captain America were their first their tent poles. And the first Iron Man made like $585 million at the box office. The first Thor movie made just a hair under 450. And the Captain America, the first Avenger, it they snuck in somewhere around 370 million. And so compared to how we got with the following, the ending of the trilogies, obviously, or even the next one, like Captain America: The Winter Soldier, went from 370 million to hitting 714 million at the box office. So there's obviously a very big growth there. Now with Justice League, that's not a number you can really make fun of. But when they were coming off of the Suicide Squad, which was in essence a Guardian of the Galaxy esque movie franchise, where you're not sure if you're going to do really well. You got one name in there, one big name actor, and you hit almost $750 million at the box office. When you have Justice League, as you said, your big ones, your legacy characters, and they hit $100 million under what the Suicide Squad, or sorry, excuse me, Suicide Squad, the first one, not the Suicide Squad, which was the second. But when it hits 100 million less than what a bunch of misfits hit, that made them stumble and reevaluate and hit pause and push some films and projects forward, and froze up, like on as I mentioned earlier, Superman. You had Henry Cavill. He still wants to play the role of Clark Kent Superman, but they have these alternative ideas that they're toying with. One is with Michael B. Jordan, and they're just unsure, and they're, I don't want to say scared, but they're trying to decide which way to go. And the longer they wait, in all honesty, the older Henry Cavill gets. He was, I think, around 33 when he first played Superman, and he's 39, I believe, this year. And if you get a script going, written, go into pre-production, production, you're saying probably at the earliest 2 or 3 years before you can get another film out with him in it. That now puts him at 42. How much longer are you going to have him playing Superman at that point? And it's one of those questions of they need to hurry up and decide what they want to do. Now back to Black Adam. I'm taking the floor for the moment. Uh, you mentioned Black Adam, and I want to get my chance to put my 2.5 cents in.
By all means,
Again,
go ahead.
I am a big fan of Dwayne Johnson, The Rock. As you mentioned, we watched him wrestling originally as Dwayne Johnson, and then as The Rock, leader of the Nation of Domination, and so forth. So we grew up watching wrestling, watching him, and so when he traversed to films, he had a little bit of a following already at that point, which grew and grew as he continued in film. So now we're here. DC, it's a I think it's been a project that he's been trying to get off the ground for what, 10 years, something along those lines. And he gets to do Black Adam, and I think what you mentioned earlier is he's now doing the kind of a vigilante, more of a return, becoming a good guy. Is he? Maybe, but we missed the villain that Black Adam was. He was the bad guy. He was the anti of what Shazam, Captain Marvel, that would be DC's Captain Marvel, under the movie Shazam. Uh, so he was the opposite of him. He was the villain until slowly he became you get a redemption arc, so to speak, that got him closer to being anti-hero. So when we go into this movie, I think we may be given some of the villain vibes, because I kind of got some of the villain vibes. It talked about in the trailer how he died, and then his son brought him back, and then it shows him holding, I assume, is his son's dead body. And so I get the feeling we're going to get a maybe go mix our euphemism. So we're going to get how we got Krypton at the first 20-25 minutes of Man of Steel. We might get a condensed, this is Black Adam, his history. He was a bad guy. He got vengeance and rained down hellfire and all that fun stuff. But now we're here in the present. And in the trailer, you see a little bit of that confrontation. The good guys don't kill people, and he goes, well, maybe maybe they do, or something along those lines. So the question is, how much of a redemption cycle? How much are we going to actually see? And will it be as compelling just to see a condensed version of, oh, he's bad, he's good, he's bad, now he's on his way to being good again? Now, obviously, Dwayne the Rock Johnson stars in Black Adam. He is Black Adam, but I have to say I'm a fan of Pierce Brosnan's, so I am definitely looking forward to seeing his take on Doctor Fate. And I'm also a fan of Aldous Hodge from Leverage, from Jack Reacher 2, the film, uh, a few other things like that. And he plays a version of Hawkman. Now, I have no idea how they're going to slip it in. Is he the reincarnated Hawkman? Is he the one from ancient Egypt? It looks like we're tying in some of Dwayne Johnson of the ancient Egypt. Maybe, I don't know. I'm just very interested, and I like Aldous Hodge a lot, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how that goes, and the charisma. The man has mad charisma, whether he's playing the geek or the not so linky geeky more, because in the Leverage Redemption, he comes back in a few episodes, and he's obviously in Hawkman physicality mode, and it's like he's not geek anymore, but the charisma, the jokes, they're all there, and he's still nailing them on top of having this physical presence. So I'm very interested to see the comedic turn he may be able to perform with the physical presence that he now very definitely exudes, because he got into a shape for this film very much so. Props to him. Well, you kind of have to when you're going to stand next to The Rock. It's like, I'm either going to just keep eating my Twinkies and jelly beans, or I'm going to have to do something about it. And he did something about it. So I'm a big fan of his. We'll see. So that's our trailer review, I guess, for Dr. Fate and Hawkman with
Will there be an actual written write up? Will you be doing an online write up of this, kind of put your thoughts a little
you
more
know what
together?
with us talking about it, I think maybe I just might have to, and I'll have to give shout out to the Lord Cephas for bringing it up and making me go, no, we will not just write it off. We must talk about Aldous Hodge and Pierce Brosnan, because darn it, I want my James Bond with superpowers.
First of all, I did talk for Pierce Brosnan. I always do. The dapper gentleman,
Oh
a
god,
hero.
he's rocking the goatee. I mean, he's
He
really.
was looking good. I'm man enough to admit that.
I'm
So,
like,
but I'm willing to set that aside. So I don't say
no run by fruitings for him this time.
what's that?
No run by fruitings
No,
for
no,
him this
Mrs.
time.
Doubtfire. There is no run by fruiting for him. So if you've never seen that, you really should go back and watch that late '90s movie with Robin Williams, the great Robin Williams, Mrs.
Yes.
Doubtfire.
Rest in
All
peace.
right. Well, we've talked a little bit of Marvel. We've talked a little DC. We touched a little bit on Star Wars. Anything else you want to touch on for pop culture this week? One thing of note that we're going to do is in a couple of weeks, the Earl and I will be going to see what is it? Is it the 25th anniversary? No, it would be the 40th anniversary of G.I. Joe the movie. We're going to actually see it in theaters. First time ever released in theaters. We'll tell the story as we get closer why it did not make theaters.
84, 87,
It came out in 87. So
87,
almost 30
35
years.
years.
So
Almost.
yeah, it's 25 years. Okay. So I'm not that
No,
far.
no, like 35 years, bro.
30. Well, see, math is not much fun, dude. I don't do this. But we'll be going to see that. So you're going to hear us talk about that probably not next week, but the week after as we prepare. That may actually change our recording time because we'll either see on that Thursday or that Saturday. But look, we're not just nerds on camera. We're actually nerds off camera as well. And we will go and revel in what may be, and this is a consideration. I still think Transformers the movie is grossly underrated for their soundtrack. For everyone who loves Guardians of the Galaxy, you just didn't see Transformers the movie to know what a good soundtrack was.
And the horror.
Well, we'll save
loss
the
and
horror for
emotional
another day of
scars, the
I
emotional
cried.
scars.
Yeah, why I cry as an adult over something that happened when I was 10 years old. But we'll talk a little bit
Maybe
about the idea of the movie, some of our thoughts going into it. But anyway, the first 2 minutes of the movie is the introduction, the opening, the musical montage. Might be one of the greatest animated openings you'll ever see. Go out of your way to at least watch the first 2 or 3 minutes when it does.
yes.
Great song, great performances. Get to see all the characters seriously kicking butt. So in a couple of weeks, we're going to get to do that. We're going to get to nerd out, just him and I. Probably alone in a movie theater with popcorn and not too much to drink, so we don't have to go potty in this part of the movie. But
You
we
know what?
will
I
get.
have faith in our fellow 70s and 80s nerds. We will not be alone.
I hope. I hope so. Yeah, it's a Fathom event we get to go see here in the town which we live. So
But
I do look forward to that as well.
one thing I think we should talk about next week is I think we should touch give Marvel a little bit of a break because we've rode them hard a little bit. Maybe go toward some video game adaptations
Some
to
what?
film. Video game adaptations to film.
Hmm. Interesting. Interesting.
I mean, we have had several over the last few years, good, bad, and the very ugly. And you know who we're talking about. We don't have to name names. You know what ugly we speak of.
There will be no names mentioned here, but yeah, I kind of have a general idea of where we might end up going with that. So that'll be very cool. So we will do that next week.
Yeah. And you know what? Even the bad ones, there are some glimmers of redemption to them. I mean, can we really talk about Super Mario Brothers and not touch on the Koopas? You know, the dancing in the elevator.
I mean, I'd
Just
like to
do it.
think we could,
No, we
but
can't. We have to. We have to.
well,
But that's for next week.
we want people to tune in next week where they will find out why I had a crush on Wendy Okupa in a very weird sort of way because I thought she was cute. That's not for this week, though. It may not be for next week. It actually might be behind a paywall. We may not want to talk about it live and publicly, but that may come up. I don't know. But well, look, man, I enjoyed doing this with you again. Our second episode. We're going to try and improve every week, do just a little bit more as we're getting all of our technical stuff together. We appreciate you listening. By all means, you can reach out to us. We will link those contacts in the description here. Earl, tell them where they can find you pretty easily if they want to interact with you and see what books you've written or what articles that you are publishing.
Well, again, you can check out Vidrea Media. We'll have the link on there where there's a book shelf that has all the different books and short stories and poems and articles written that will be there for available that can be purchased or read online. They also have an online section. You can also find me on Goodreads or Books William, Barnes and Noble, doesn't matter. I'm there. Find me. I am under RL, the Earl, Aaron's, ARENZ, the third. Don't forget the third. You can never forget the third. You may forget the first and the second, but never the third. Either way. And then I usually run the Earl of Florida as my handle, Twitter, Discord even. You can hit me on there. I'm on several Discord channels that are for writers or authors, and we try to answer questions and give any guidance or feedback. And I have to give a shout out to Super Kings on Twitch. They do a live uh, editorial offering for writers that come on there. They submit their work through a Google Docs, and they will get you signed in, and you will be live there. And I do tend to drop in from time to time. Usually, I try to drop in every time they're live, and you get some of my snark there, and for free, of course. I'm freely snarky. But we're definitely here. We answer emails. We'll check on the comments and try to hit you back and respond. And if you have something you want to say for us for the next video that we will be speaking on the video game adaptions, let us know and we will bring it up.
Absolutely, Earl. Another good time with you. I appreciate your time. We appreciate all of you listening and watching, however you consume this podcast. We just appreciate you doing so. And we look forward to bringing more great content. Everyone have a good week. We will see everyone next week. Take care, everybody.
Vaya con Dios.